Welcome to Air Quotes and Margin Notes, the show where D20s decide what we talk about.
I'm Prem.
And I'm Eli. What did you roll?
I rolled religion and history. It has changed me.
Pretty excited about it.
This one is daunting to me.
Really?
Yeah. What did you roll?
True crime hobbies.
That should be interesting.
It hopefully will be. I think mine is a good starting. It's a good jumping off point for conversation, I think.
Okay, cool. Well, now's the part where we roll to see who goes first.
Mm-hmm.
You've gone first the last 2 times.
Yeah.
Because you love going first.
No, I don't.
Okay, which one do you want to roll this week?
You roll first.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, let's do a D10. Okay, so before we roll, I want everyone to check out our new dice tray, thanks to Eli. And it's going to be the subject of upcoming videos, so be on the lookout for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going first?
Yep, go for it.
A 1.
I think we should get some rerolls. Are you purposely losing?
What, best 2 out of 3? That's so funny. Okay. I got a 1 again. I got a 10 that time.
All right, I get to go first again.
Yay!
Okay, my assignment this week was to pick up a true crime hobby, and I think I did a pretty good job with it. I'm reading here that it says to write about a true crime hobby. Oh,
True crime hobbies.
What do you think I picked for a topic?
I don't know. We joked last time about how all serial killers are kind of true crime hobbyists. So maybe that? I don't know.
I'll say I was in a light mood, so I didn't really want to go too dark with this.
Sure. I
love true crime, but every once in a while I have to do a true crime cleanse or it makes me anxious. So I went a different route.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's see where you went.
Honestly, I thought Prim was going to guess that because he used to talk about this a lot.
Oh, is it the guy? What's his name? Zodiac Killer?
No, I didn't do that one.
Oh, okay. I guess I'll find out.
I guess you'll find out. This actually ended up being pretty tough because I was trying to find an interesting take that people maybe don't talk about quite as much. I watch a lot of true crime. I go through phases. So anyway, I was trying to find an interesting take on the subject. And I think the most popular true crime hobby right now is making podcasts or watching them, honestly. I could be wrong, but that is pretty popular. I thought I'd try to go in a different direction. And I think this one's kind of fun and interesting from a cultural overview versus the actual thing. I think that you, Prim, know that I consider myself a bit of an amateur ripperologist.
That's who it is, Jack the Ripper.
I think that's common knowledge.
I think I just blocked all of those conversations out of my brain.
Sure. That's
sorry.
No, that's okay. I was glad you didn't guess. A ripperologist is somebody that likes to learn, study, or try to figure out Jack the Ripper, in case you didn't know. I think this case is really interesting for the reasons everybody does, but also I think it's interesting as a case study for culture in general. Just the obsession over it is really interesting to me. Just the worlds it's built up around it is kind of what I looked at. But I think if those murders happened today, it wouldn't be that interesting. It wouldn't even probably make the news and it would get solved immediately.
Well, maybe.
I mean, here's the technologies they had at the time. Fingerprinting was just becoming a thing. It wasn't widely used as far as I know, but it was starting to be used. They didn't do it in that case. They also thought that if you photographed a victim's eyes right after death, you might be able to see the perpetrator.
What?
Yeah.
That's insane.
That was a Victorian era thing. It didn't work, obviously, but
really?
Yeah. Yeah, it turned out not to be a real thing. And I don't know. I heard that and I didn't fact check it, but that could be nowadays, psychics come out of the woodwork to help solve cases. In 100 years, maybe people say, oh yeah, well they use psychics, and that's not quite the case. Probably they were trying everything. And
sure.
The other thing I thought was interesting is that I think in my mind, when I look into Jack the Ripper, I think this is a new obsession. This is a new thing. But literally books were coming out weeks after it happened. This is not a new thing. It's been on people's minds. It's been in the collective consciousness for the whole time. Really interesting. But I just think the whole culture of it is really fascinating. So I thought I'd go into some hobbies surrounding it specifically. So there are, I think, estimated 1,000 books about Jack the Ripper. There's tours, there's forums, there's the title of Ripperologist, which I don't remember when that came out. I think it might have been in the 90s. It's a whole thing. It's a whole big world.
It's like UFOologist.
It is, but I think it's not more interesting, but I think it's interesting in that it's based on one case. UFO studies are based on tons of things happening all over the world to all different people. this is like one thing that happened 140 years ago. It's just weird. And like I've looked into history a lot, and there's a billion cases that weren't solved. And it's just interesting that this one really hit the collective consciousness. Even like Japan has a whole thing around Jack the Ripper. He's in animes. He's like a big character in their world. He's like almost a mythical figure. It's really interesting.
Wow.
So, and I just think it's interesting because no matter what you did at this point, there's almost no way to fully solve it and say this is 100% solved. It's very unlikely you would find DNA that you could show the entire history of to prove that it was there.
Is this the case you were telling me about where they had some evidence but it was lost or like purposefully destroyed, or was that another case?
It wasn't purposefully destroyed, but there was a police officer that had like a scarf from her that had DNA from one of the suspects on it. But I don't think you can fully trace it back. I don't think a lot of ripperologists really believe in that. But there was a book that came out that wanted to say that definitively proved it. There's also there's been deathbed confessions, there's been letters, but there's been a lot of those from different people. So it's like you can't really say. So it'd be really hard to like definitively prove it at this point. But anyway, so I thought I'd take a look at some hobbies surrounding Jack the Ripper. This case sort of, I don't know. It didn't invent true crime. I think true crime is more of it got named, but it was already a thing. Like people for, I don't know how far back would be interested in that. I don't think it's a new thing. I think it just got a new name. Kind of like serial killer wasn't really a word used till the 70s, but that happened. Yeah, like that did already happen. The thing that, and I'll talk more about this towards the end, but I do think the thing that was different with it was at the time, it sort of happened in the sweet spot of media. A lot of this case talks a lot about the new, the modern world, but it was at a time when media became more prevalent. People were able to read more, and sensationalism really was becoming a thing. And I think that's what sort of kicked it off. And then it oddly just stuck. And I'm interested, since I can't say anything about it. So anyway, let's start with the hobbies. This is going to make some sense. So let's start at the time of the case. It was around 1888. I think it went, I don't know how long, but around then. So get your Victorian era hats on. So my first hobby is there were 1,000 letters sent to the police, sent to Scotland Yard, and sent to some news agencies claiming to be Jack the Ripper. They investigated 700 of them. I think for the most part, like some of them potentially could have been real, but I really think it was people trying to drum up the case. It was news agencies faking it to try to sensationalize it. A couple of those are proven. Because
then they could get the inside scoop that...
Yeah, and they could... Yeah, and just drum up sales for newspapers.
Wow.
One of them, I think, was proven. Take all this with a grain of salt. I think that the Dear Boss letter, which was one of the one that named Jack the Ripper, was proven. There was a deathbed confession by the news agency guy that was faked. So, yeah, there's a lot of people capitalized on it. Now, I know that writing a letter is not a hobby specifically. It could be, I guess. To me, like, if you're writing a letter, you're not doing it for your job. You're doing it for fun or to get some kicks out of it. That's a hobby. I think that's a hobby.
I've never understood people who do the non-coerced fake confessions. It's such an interesting thing to think about, right? That like, right? Like you think about it. It's, what is it, 1889?
1888, I think.
1888. You get off of your job at the factory.
Yeah.
You come home and you have your potatoes for dinner and you're sitting around and you're going, what is there to do? You read the newspaper for the day and you think, I'll write a fake letter. Yeah. It could get me sent to prison forever.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun. Like I don't get it. I don't get it.
I don't know either. In some cases, I do get it because they're trying to get, they like can't say they did it, but they're trying to get recognition from it.
Sure.
But if you're not the killer and you're doing that, I don't know, because I've seen a lot of cases where like they'll call the victim, like fake calls to the victim and things. And it's like, I don't know if it's just like some sadomasochism or what, but I don't know.
I guess what I'm saying is I agree. I think if you're spending your evening after work, taking the time to do that, that's a hobby.
Yeah, I think that's a hobby.
Yeah.
What else would you call it? I mean, I guess you could call it compulsion, but I don't think every person on there did it multiple times. Like,
right.
Okay, so a couple of letters. Like I said before, the Dear Boss letter and the Saucy Jackie postcard, which are kind of the most well-known. That's what it's called.
What's Saucy Jackie?
I think that's what it was signed. The Dear Boss letter was signed Jack the Ripper, and I'm pretty sure, and I don't know if this is even proven, but that the guy from the newspaper confessed that he wrote that to drum up sales.
Saucy Jackie.
Saucy Jackie.
Now, if you're writing a fake letter about a bunch of people and you sign it off Saucy Jackie, That is definitely a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think, I didn't look into this, but it's curious because a lot of them, I think, I don't know if the Dear Boss letter came out sooner and then everybody saw the Jack part and used it, because obviously we don't know. I mean, from my reading, I think 100% his name was not Jack. So I don't know. I think they just picked something that had a good ring to it and they just nailed it because it stuck. And I mean, it's a good name. But they shouldn't have done that because they like sensationalized it. And I think there's a good chance that half of those murders happened by other people and it was like jumping on that bandwagon. There's no proof of that, but I don't think there's any perfect proof that it was all the same person even. Maybe the canonical 5, which is like the 5 victims, they feel more proven that it was the same person, but there were other murders around that time that are question marks. So it's possible those were copycats. You know, you see this big sensational thing happening and you're like, oh, I guess I could take out somebody and everybody would think it was just him and I would get away with it. And I guess they did. So.
Is that also a true crime hobby?
To me, I made it a hobby if it was like a repetitive thing that you did for fun.
Okay.
That's kind of how I called it. But
sure.
Next up, I wanted to talk about books. I know authors make a living writing books, not all of them. Some of them do it for fun. They're not exactly a hobby, but I think that most professions in the creative field you start out doing for fun and then you become a professional and you probably still enjoy it a lot of the time. So I think it's still a hobby. There are literally, the guesstimate is 1,000 books on Jack the Ripper in 140 years. I'm sure there are other subjects that have 1,000 books on them, but kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's 1,000 books is a lot of books.
Yeah.
I think we probably have about 600 books.
All different things.
And they're overflowing our house.
Yeah,
so I can't imagine having 1,000 books about one topic.
Yeah, I know. So they've been written all through the ages. It's really interesting.
Did you look and see if there's a library?
I didn't see if there was a library. There's definitely museums that probably do have some of the books. I don't know if there's a library specifically. There is a database of all the...
You don't need to pick that up as a special...
I'll look into it, don't worry.
He's going to pick that up as a special interest and start collecting books to create
God, I didn't think about that.
No.
Here's an interesting thing on the books. The first book I could find about Jack the Ripper is a fictional novel called The Curse Upon Mitre Square by John Francis Brewer. It literally released like weeks after one of the murders, the Catherine Eddowes murder. And as far as I can tell, every book on the subject was fiction until 1975, which I think says a lot about how it was seen.
Yeah.
He was immediately a mythical character to put into a book. It wasn't like people weren't at the time interested in the reality of it. They were interested in the mythology of it. And I think that's really interesting. That's, almost 100 years went by before anybody wrote a nonfiction book about it. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying there weren't reference books or anything. I don't know if I specified enough to make sure of that. But yeah, there were no books about like what actually happened.
Well, that's like a thing, right? Like with what was that panic around people playing D&D or like even like the Red Scare or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's like this thing just kind of in the human psyche where we like need to have something that we're scared of.
Yeah. Like we need a monster in the closet.
Yeah. So I can see it being that way, right? Where it was like you said, it was maybe like this perfect storm of like journalists hopped on it and there was like media coverage of it and folks went, oh, we need to be scared of this. This is something we need to be scared of, to take up our time or our energy or to use it as a cautionary tale.
Yeah, I think it is like I think the obsession with true crime does come from something like that. I think humans are very focused on organizing and slotting things into a nice grid. And I think true crime comes from people wanting to like understand what makes people evil so that they can maybe avoid it. I'm not quite sure, but something in that realm. But in 1975, which there's a lot of infighting in the ripperologist community. I'll just say that. But as far as I could tell, the first nonfiction book was The Complete Jack the Ripper by Donald Rumbelow in 1975. And then if we're talking about authors, I can't talk about this part without mentioning Alan Moore. And he wrote a whole bunch of graphic novels. He wrote the graphic novel From Hell, which is, I think, an interesting take on Jack the Ripper. And then the other thing I found out, which I don't love the wording on this, but there is so much Jack the Ripper fanfic. Crazy. Like there's a whole website. I mean, it's not dedicated just to Jack the Ripper, but it's like a fan fiction site. It pulled up 542 fan fictions about Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like a phenomenon that we just like, we see. And once again, like it's in culture, like when they made that recent, what was it, the Jeffrey Dahmer documentary, and people like immediately started calling him hot and were like fangirling about him on the actor who played him on the internet, I think. And then like the real life Jeffrey Dahmer had tons of women who like flocked to him and thought he was so cool. It's like this weird thing where I think there's something alluring about the concept of it. Yeah. I don't really understand it, but it is a phenomenon that I feel like happens.
Yeah. That'd be interesting to look into. I wonder if it's like, okay, say you get attacked by somebody with a bat.
Yeah.
Don't fight. I don't like fighting. But if you get attacked by somebody with a bat, you're supposed to get closer because then the bat's not in your range. And like, you know, if somebody has a gun, you run away. But if somebody has a bat, you're supposed to move in and like kind of grapple it because they can't swing the bat at you if you're super close. Maybe it's like that. Maybe the women are like, if I'm with a serial killer, he won't kill me.
He won't kill me.
But if I'm like adjacent to him, he could. I don't know.
I think some of them are like, kill me.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I don't fully understand it. I mean, fan fiction is fan fiction and have at it because it's not real. But yeah, it does seem like it is like this phenomenon where we really enjoy as a species thinking about close proximity to danger in a really interesting way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The next hobby I'll mention is specific to a person. There might be other people that do it. I didn't find them. At least as far as I found, there's a guy named Mark Hodgson who builds dioramas. I think he does a lot of different ones, but he did one of all the crime scenes from Jack the Ripper in Lego.
What?
And they're incredible. He like studied photography from the time and like tried to find information. He did some of the rooms, some of the streets. And he said he was doing it to kind of like, it's hard to conceptualize because a lot of the buildings are gone now and you can't see it. And a lot of the pictures are kind of, of one section. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Wow.
I found an interview with him. We'll put a link to it, but
that's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But I like Legos. So maybe if I was into fanfic, I would think that the fanfic thing was really cool.
That's
I don't know.
True. Yeah. Should do some Lego fanfic.
No, don't give people ideas.
He studies what material he can from that era. He like looks at any kind of information he can get and makes it as accurate as possible. Really cool. This is probably my favorite of all the hobbies, the Jack the Ripper hobbies. So my next thing, which is kind of obvious that I would do this, but my next hobby for Jack the Ripper was board games. There are more than I looked up. I found at least 10. I'm pretty sure there are more. It kind of varies. Most of them I saw were from the 2000s up. So I'll talk about a few of those. The first one is a game called Letters from Whitechapel. It's from this is not the first game invented, but it's from 2011. It's a hidden movement game. One person plays Jack the Ripper. The others cooperate as detectives. And if you're Jack, you have to claim 5 victims before getting caught. Pretty dark.
It's a board game?
It's a board game. I think it's like a little gridded out tile game.
Oh, interesting. That almost sounds like you could make Blood on the Clock Tower.
I believe there is
a variant.
I think, yeah.
With that premise.
To me, it sounded almost like Minesweeper.
Oh.
But I didn't look at the board. I don't know. Like, it is available. But the next one is called Whitehall Mystery, which is kind of the same thing, it seems like, but it's a bit faster paced. Then there's one called, this is a long title, Sherlock Holmes, Consulting Detective, Jack the Ripper, and the West End Adventures. They got that on a box somehow. I don't know how they did it. But this one's a co-op or solo game where you read newspapers and casebooks and you try to solve the case. I found, just on a quick search, I found 8 others. I'm sure there's probably way more than that. Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Also, and this is probably going to get a lot of comments, my opinion is whatever did happen is going to be the most boring option because the case got so sensationalized that there's no way it'll be as exciting as the reality, and I just think probably the most boring option is the real one.
Yeah.
There's a few people that think it was, what do you call those people that help give birth to help?
Oh, midwives?
Some people think it was a midwife because one of the victims got their womb stolen. I think it was the guy, I'm not going to get into it, but I think it was the guy in the alley that there was one of the murders in an alley. 2 guys came upon it at the same time. One of them went and found a police officer and gave the wrong name, showed up in court, and I can't remember his name. It might have been, I can't remember. But I think he was probably killing her at the time, and the other guy walked up and he acted like he had just found the body. It was a dark alley. It was foggy. I think that was probably him. Whether that was Jack the Ripper or some guy that was, copycatting or just doing it, who knows?
I also think, in some ways, it doesn't matter at this point. I'm sure it matters to the victims. The families of the victims at this point, I'm sure, already already feel so minimized in this story that I'm sure finding out who did it wouldn't provide them the closure that they needed if they still needed closure, because it's going to continue to be talked about. It now is part of our culture in a way that it's not going to go away even if we do figure out what happened.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's not as close. 140 years, that's your, great-great-grandparents probably?
In the grand scheme, I'm not sure that, if I was a twice or thrice removed family member and I found out, I would be like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's me speaking out of turn, but
I think the more interesting part if it got solved, I think the interesting part would be the fallout in the Ripperology world, because there's tours, there's parties, there's games, and it might take the edge off of those. I don't think it would at this point because it's so mythologized. But I do think there would be a lot of, every time somebody says they proved who it was, there's a lot of infighting. And I think part of that is like your tours are going to go down if you don't have this interesting character.
There's an economic incentive to keep the case open, basically. Yeah.
But again, I don't know how you could prove without a shadow of a doubt that somebody did it, because there's just too much random mess. I mean, there was a letter that came with a kidney to the police, and I don't think they think it was him. They think it was a medical student pranking him. It could have been him.
That's a crazy prank.
Yeah. And I think there was a follow-up letter to that to the doctor that did the research on it or something. I don't know. So there's too much stuff to sort it out. I don't know how there's just no way. I can't see how you could prove it. So even all of this, which we talked about, a few hobbies and a bunch of other stuff, it's leaving out a lot. There are plays, there are documentaries, there's comedies, there's role-playing events, there's collectors, there's painters that do work of Jack the Ripper. There's museums, you name it, and Jack the Ripper has been put on it. There's animes. I didn't mention that. All of those aren't hobbies, but some of them are probably done as hobbies.
Is everyone called a Ripperologist?
I think you have to look into it a little bit, but I don't think you don't get a plaque or anything.
If you participate in Ripper culture, let us know why. I'm so curious.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear different people's takes.
Yeah, for sure.
I do think part of it is they do want to think that there could be an answer, and maybe there is. Maybe there is an answer, but I don't think there's one you could prove without a shadow of a doubt. So, and this is not a modern thing. Like I said before, this has been happening basically since the case happened. I did read Dr. Kyle Gamache. He thinks people aren't just obsessed with the case because it was unsolved and left a lot of room for imagination and conspiracy theories. But he thinks also that it was that cultural shift that I mentioned before, that advances in printing and literacy, and it just allowed it to be much more sensationalized than it otherwise would have been. I do agree with that. I do think that makes a lot of sense, that it just hit not the right time, you don't want to call it that, but at a peak time to do that. So that's my true crime hobby.
So I guess my follow-up question to that is, did this inspire you to pick a Ripper-related hobby? Or does it make you want to play a Ripper-related game, or to do more research around it, or seeing behind the curtain a little bit? Are you okay, yeah, I can move on? I
don't know. I love watching media about it. I love hearing people talk about it and guess. I like the idea that if somebody guesses 8 people, maybe one of them is it. And I like the idea that that's getting touched on even if you can't prove it. Yeah. I also was kind of disappointed because Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was writing Sherlock Holmes around the same time. And for whatever reason, he never crossed over. There are a lot of novels now that have Sherlock Holmes solving the Jack the Ripper case. I think actually that board game I mentioned is you competing against Sherlock Holmes to solve the case.
Oh, that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah. And I think the idea of a Sherlock Holmes book about Jack the Ripper would be good. So they do exist. They just weren't written by the original author. So
yeah,
I do think I will probably read one of those.
Okay,
but
cool.
No, I don't think the games really are my thing. I don't know.
We have a couple of those murder mystery solving games, and they're pretty interesting.
Yeah, I like them. It's not I wouldn't do it all the time, but they are fun every once in a while.
Yeah.
We play Myrtle. That's a pretty good one.
Oh, I love Myrtle.
Y'all know Myrtle? It's what do?
It's one of those boxes, and it's Sally wears blue shoes. Yeah. Steve has a blue hat. Who's wearing the blue pants or whatever? It's one of those, so you have to
It's deductive reasoning.
Yeah, that's a better way to say it. Yeah, I used to be a lot more into true crime than I am now, but I used to listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of YouTube channels and stuff.
I still watch some true crime, but I tend to lean more now towards like weird mysteries and like, don't judge me, but I like ancient aliens a lot. I don't believe in any of it. I mean, I'm not saying anything weird's not out there, but like that show's pretty extreme. But I like hearing people talk about it. So I think it's funny.
Yeah, sometimes you just need a background show. I have little fingies on my feet.
Frank really wants to be in this episode.
Maybe he'll be in my section.
Yeah, okay.
Do you participate in any true crime hobbies? Please don't do true crime.
Yeah, don't do true crime, man.
Okay, so now mine. Religion and history. What do you think I did?
What do I think you did? I feel like I should be able to guess this. I don't know why. I don't think I have a good guess. I think maybe like what's in the Vatican archives or something. I'm not sure.
Wow. That's so bold to say when I have an anthology of American literature sitting right over here.
I didn't read it. Did you do the white salamander?
No.
Oh, dang.
No, but I do talk about Mormons.
Okay, cool.
So you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm excited to hear yours.
Okay, here goes. So I rolled religion and history, and honestly, I got a little daunted with this one. I have a lot of opinions on religion and on history and on the history of religion and on the religion of history. But since this isn't a show based on the premise that we share our opinions only, it's where we do research and present our findings, I had to find a way to approach the topic not only with fresh eyes, but also with my bias in check. I realized after some thought that the thing history and religion have in common is that they need contextualization to make sense. There's this old stand-up show by Julia Sweeney called Letting Go of God. I remember watching it on YouTube when it first published, and it really resonated with me. And then I looked up when that was, and it was 20 years ago. So that also really resonates with me. But in it, she talks about the time 2 Mormon missionaries came to her door to share their faith and the story of their religion. It's so ludicrous to her that she felt superior to them as a Catholic. After some reflection, she came to the conclusion that if someone came to her door and told her the story of her religion without her ever hearing it before, it would sound equally as ridiculous. It's just that that's the story that she's used to. I think this is very true for a lot of religion and a lot of history. Context is the thing that makes it make sense. I mean, just hearing a story about a guy who chopped down a cherry tree doesn't really mean anything to most people in the world. But for those in the United States, it's become a deeply meaningful story that's passed down from generation to generation as a symbol of the ways in which our founding as a country is rooted in honesty, integrity, empathy, and purity of heart. Another example, hearing a story about a guy who saw a dead body, wandered for 6 years and starved himself, and then sat beneath a tree for 36 hours before reaching enlightenment may sound ludicrous to somebody who's LDS or Catholic. But for the over 300 million Buddhists, his story is a practical guide to the ways in which any human can live ethically, have mental discipline, and achieve a balanced lifestyle. The context is the meaning. When I was a younger person, I read a lot of spiritual philosophy. Alan Watts, Carl Jung, Ram Dass, Joseph Campbell, Thich Nhat Hanh. One book I was quite enthralled with was Campbell's Power of Myth, which I actually meant to bring and I forgot. But it's a think piece on how all of the stories that we tell ourselves and each other have recurring themes that assist us with making sense of our lives and the world that we live in. It builds on his earlier work, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, wherein he posits that everything from religious texts to Star Wars fit into the mold of a 12-step cycle called the monomyth, or the hero's journey. While both the world and I have mostly moved on from the conceptualization of the monomyth as being a universal truth and a formula for telling stories, whether that be religious, spiritual, or otherwise, I did discover what's called the Arne Thompson-Uther Tale Type Index, or the ATU Index. Denison University notes that it, quote, classifies story plots into 7 broad categories, close quote. Animal tales, tales of magic, religious tales, realistic tales, tales of the stupid ogre, giant, or devil, anecdotes and jokes, and formula tales.
Sorry to interrupt. What's a formula tale?
A formula tale is just like a tale that follows a formula, like a this, then this. I don't have any examples offhand. It's just like a formulaic way of telling a tale, I think.
Gotcha.
Correct me if I got that wrong. So the ATU Index was originally published in 1910 and was compiled by Antti Arne, a Finnish folklorist. In 1928, it was expanded and translated into English by Stith Thompson, an American folklorist. 1671 saw another revision and expansion by Thompson, and then in 2004, it was updated and expanded again by German folklorist H.J. Uther. It's definitely far from a perfect index. It's still quite Eurocentric, and it struggles with how to include tale types such as fanfiction and oral traditions, and classification is generally just a messy business. But that's not really even my point. None of this really is. I brought up the hero's journey and the ATU index because even though neither are inclusive and both are quite methodologically flawed, they align on a very broad point. Storytelling, through both religious and historical contexts, is important to our species, and there are motifs that constantly recur: avoiding being tricked, questing, morality, solving puzzles, outwitting opponents, absurdity. These things are meaningful to us, despite how quote-unquote true they are. For example, George Washington, in fact, did not chop down the cherry tree and confess it to his dad upon questioning. Mount Vernon notes that, quote, "This iconic story about the value of honesty was invented by one of Washington's first biographers, a traveling minister and bookseller named Mason Locke Weems," close quote. We have lots of examples of this. Biz Barclay talks in one of her videos, I think it's Why Aren't You Talking to Me? About art, power, and global crisis, but please correct me if I'm wrong, about how Julius Caesar did not actually say, "A tu brute." He probably said, "Ah!" because he was dying. Yeah. Shakespeare gave him those words.
Yeah.
This goes on and on. Darth Vader did not say, "Luke, I am your father." He said, "No, I am your father." Napoleon wasn't short. He was average height for the time. I think he was like 5'6". The Bible never specifically enumerates how many wise men there were, and they weren't there for Jesus' birth. They arrived afterwards. King Tut's tomb is not inscribed with a curse on those that disturb it. That was made up by journalists. Martin Luther did not nail the 95 Theses to the door of the Catholic Church in some grand act of rebellion. He glued it up, which was a traditional way to post notices at the time. And it goes the other way too. There are lots of things that were believed to be a myth that have since been proven to be historically accurate. Troy was long considered to be a mythical setting in many Greek tales, a fully not real place made up as a phenomenal backdrop for intrigue, drama, and war. And then it was discovered in the 19th century by Heinrich Schliemann, a German archaeologist who was obsessed with the Iliad and stole a bunch of stuff from the dig site. In New Zealand, there's an old myth about the Poaki among the indigenous Maori people. I think I said that right. I watched a person from the Maori tribe say it last night. A monstrous bird that hunted and ate humans. The real Poaki was discovered in the 19th century, a now extinct eagle called the Haast's eagle.
That's cool.
Yeah. Wikipedia notes that, quote, "It is the largest eagle known to have existed, with an estimated weight of 22 to 40 pounds. Its massive size is explained as an evolutionary response to the size of its primary prey, the flightless moa, the largest of which could weigh 440 pounds.
Oh my God.
So that bird was definitely strong enough to pick up a guy and eat him.
Yeah, for sure.
The myth of the terracotta army created by the Chinese Emperor Qin Shi Huang was discovered to be true in 1974. I could keep going. You get the point. My mom and I went to go see Devil Wears Prada 2. I was mostly going to see Caleb Heron, but in it, there's a bad billionaire type who has a conversation with Miranda Priestley. Don't worry, I won't give any spoilers, but he says, quote, "The future just comes rushing at us, like the lava of Pompeii. Our job is to just let it take what it wants. One day, it's gonna come and it's gonna smother us all." So what I'm really trying to say is experience, time, truth, memory, they're all funny things. I saw this Instagram reel where a woman was saying that she and her husband can experience the exact same thing at the exact same time and walk away with two entirely different interpretations. It's based on what they find important, how it relates to their lived experience, and what stories they tell themselves. We often can't get stories or facts straight in the moment. Religion and history are retelling of these things over and over and over. Sometimes the stories we tell are more real than reality, and sometimes reality mirrors myth. Religion and history are forever intertwined and messy and depend so much on context and meaning making. It's not my job to say that religion is factual or not, or if history is more myth than fact. I'm not an expert on any of this. What I am saying is that holding on too tightly to any story we tell ourselves and each other often doesn't leave space for the beautiful and necessary messiness of community, of finding meaning through shared context. I want to end on a creation myth and a reminder to hold just a little bit looser onto your perceptions of reality. You never know what might surprise you. Okay, so I'm going to read from the Bedford Anthology of American Literature. This is volume 1, which goes from the beginning to 1865. This is a creation story from the Cherokee people, and it was originally an oral tradition tradition that was passed down from generation to generation, and then it was transcribed and translated by James Mooney. The Earth is a great island floating in a sea of water and suspended at each of the 4 cardinal points by a cord hanging down from the sky vault, which is of solid rock. When the world grows old and worn out, the people will die, and the cords will break and let the earth sink down into the ocean, and all will be water again. We are afraid of this. When all was water, the animals were above, beyond the arch, but it was very much crowded, and they were wanting more room. At first, the earth was flat and very soft and wet. The animals were anxious to get down, and sent out different birds to see if it was yet dry, but they found no place to alight, and came back again. At last it seemed to be time, and they sent the buzzard and told him to go and make ready for them. This was the great buzzard, the father of all buzzards we see now. When he reached the Cherokee country, he was very tired, and his wings began to flap and strike the ground, and wherever they struck the earth there was a valley, and wherever they turned up again there was a mountain. When the earth was dry and the animals came down, it was still dark, and so they got the sun, and they set it in a track to go every day across the island from east to west, just overhead. There is another world under this, and it is like ours in everything, animals, plants, and people, save that the seasons are different. The streams that come down from their mountains are the trails by which we reach this underworld, and the springs at their heads are the doorways by which we enter it. But to do this one must go fast, and to go with water, and to have one of the underground people for a guide. We know that the seasons in the underworld are different from ours, because the water in the springs is always warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer than the outer air. Men came after the animals and plants. At first there was only a brother and a sister, until he struck her with a fish and told her to multiply, and so it was. In 7 days a child was born unto her, and thereafter every 7 days another, and they increased very fast, until there was danger that the world could not keep them. Then it was made that a woman should have only 1 child in a year, and so it has been ever since. So that's what I did.
That's awesome. I love that ours have some crossover.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like that kind of naturally happens every single week.
Yeah, we don't look at each other.
No, we really don't.
I had no idea what she did. That was really good. What made you add the reading to?
Oh, I just think it was, thinking about that stand-up comedy set and about how we get kind of, I don't want to say trapped, but we get kind of in a groove of the stories that feel really comfortable to us. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when we hear other cultures' stories or other stories about religion or even history, we're pretty quick to judge them or to try to act superior. Mm-hmm. And I was just thinking a lot about how there are creation myths in every single culture. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are really, really meaningful and powerful. And so I wanted to just drive home my point that holding loosely onto the stories that we tell ourselves can open up some really cool doors to learn something new, or to, instead of like looking at another creation story and judging it, to go, oh, that's pretty cool, or oh, that's interesting. Or what does that say about the culture in which they were derived,
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, and I think looking for similarities instead of differences is a good way to go about that as well.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people immediately go, that's ridiculous because that's not mine. But if you start looking for similarities in it or some common ground, it's a lot nicer a way to go about it. If you need to feel like there's a commonality, I don't know. I don't personally, wouldn't get offended by it, somebody else having a different story.
Sure. Well, and some creation stories are very different than others. But I decided to go for one that had a little bit more crossover because I think that was one of the things that drew me to the power of myth, is because it's showing that over time, throughout time, we have these patterns of things that we need, stories we need to hear, stories we need to tell that have these kind of recurring motifs to them.
Yeah. It's interesting with that because you were talking about, over the course of time, these stories come about that had not nothing to do with the reality of the situation, but had more to do with the mythology than the nonfiction. And it makes you wonder nowadays, with there being so much connection, will that happen as often as it used to? Or is there room in the world for it now? With, everybody around the world being able to get the same news and the same stories.
I think to me it's quite disconcerting because there was a lot of room for unique expressions. And I think that in some ways the togetherness of the online space now distills that into a singular or a group of narratives. And there's this desire to kind of put somebody in a bucket and go, okay, and that's your bucket, right? Mm-hmm. And I think then we lose the ability to tell and create and share and spread really unique stories, just because it doesn't kind of fit into the bucket.
Yeah, you kind of see that in the art world a little bit. it's different. You're not mythologizing, but you see where, like, I don't know, this doesn't happen to all artists, but like your audience almost guides you a little bit, and you have to try to fight against that. If you let them, they'll define your work, and then that's who you become. And if you're like trying to become famous, then you more and more become that. It's kind of the same thing. It's just George Washington's story is a little more like he wasn't really a player in that game, I guess. But.
No, he wasn't. No, well, and I think that that's what's interesting about like tying mine to yours is because I'm sure that if it was one killer or several killers, I guess I don't want to get in the mind of a killer too much, but my guess is that they probably didn't have any intention of being mythologized as much as they have been.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody could have thought I'm going to be the most famous serial killer on Earth. Yeah.
There are these stories I think that we tell in our local communities that are sometimes really unexpected or sometimes take off. And I do think we see a little bit of that online still, like and this isn't even really a story, but what was it? The blue and gold versus the white dress phenomenon that happened, right? Where we do have these things where we as an online culture kind of rally around something unexpected. But is that a myth or is it a thing that's going to get passed down from generation to generation?
I hope not.
Not to.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because that has become such a like numbers game now, because if you want to mythologize a person now, you just have to be in the majority to do so, which I guess is true back then, because if you were the newspaper, you just had to be in the majority and the one printing the paper, and you could mythologize somebody. But I
don't think that that's necessarily true, though. There's this myth. It's an Indian myth, and I don't remember exactly what part of India it's from, but there's this myth about this lady, and she was traveling with like all of her traveling companions from one place to another, and the myth is that hail rained down on them and killed all of them, and they were all never seen again. And it was like this, it was kind of like a cautionary tale, like we were talking about earlier, right? Where it's like, it's almost like a reminder to folks to be careful in their travels. And then they actually found it, and it did happen. It was true. So I do think that there's like...
Yeah, I like those in your story, the ones that weren't thought to be true that were. That's really cool. Well, it's like mountain gorillas that were discovered in the 60s. Like people talked about those all the time.
Mountain gorillas? What's a mountain gorilla?
Gorilla that lives in the mountain.
Really? And they just people didn't think that they were real?
I mean, Europeans discovered them in the 60s. But,
Got it. Well, that's like that story of, and this is not really having to do with religion or history, but that story of that boat. You know that boat? Okay, I'll just tell it quickly, and somebody could tell us what the story is, really. Yeah. There's a guy, and he was like a captain of a ship, and they were, I think it was present day Canada-ish, and they went up, and they were, I don't know, looking around. They did their travel like too late in the year, and they got their ship got blocked in by ice, and so they couldn't leave, and so they ended up staying there. I think they ended up like resorting to cannibalism, and some crazy stuff happened. And then I think at some point he got in contact with the Inuit folk, and they like helped him and his people leave. It was like this myth for a really long time because nobody could ever find like where the ship was or what happened. Like there was no like historical evidence. And for so long, nobody could find anything. And then finally there was this guy, and he was like, has anyone asked the Inuit people? They're like, they keep records of everything. And so somebody finally went and asked them, and they were like, oh yeah, it happened right over there. Like they knew exactly the whole time. It was in their historical records. So yeah, discovery is a funny thing, right?
That all makes me think of, I have very few facts on this, but I watched a story not that long ago of a woman. It was like, okay, so there was all these cases in the DNA. There was a DNA from a woman. I think it was in Germany. Don't quote me on that. Her DNA was at the crime scene of like 100 murders. They kept finding it, and there was like all this mythology built around her being this amazing assassin and all this stuff. Do you know the story?
Wasn't it like she wasn't wearing gloves or something?
Yeah, it was somebody at the processing lab that had contaminated a whole bunch of DNA. So I feel like mythology can come out of like weird places. Sometimes.
Yeah, it really can.
We're going to drink some coffee and then come back.
Okay, we're back.
We're back. And we're rolling for next week. I'm nervous this time.
Are you?
I want to roll doubles. I want to get animals. Really bad. Animals, because that'd be really interesting.
Okay. You ready, Frank? No, he doesn't care. Three. Video games!
Oh, nice. That's a good one.
I'm actually excited about that.
It'd be interesting if we got the same things.
That would be interesting. Ready?
Yep. Fine.
6.
Oh,
the history of video games.
Okay, or video game history. Yeah.
Video game history. Okay. I don't hate that.
That'll be a fun one. All right. I feel like I'm going to get a hard one this time.
Wait, ask Frank if he wants to blow on it.
You want to blow on it, Frank? Oh, thank you so much. And science. Please get something specific.
The science of science.
Oh my god, that'll be good. Okay, here we go. 5? Oh, I know exactly what I'll do on that one.
Really?
Got
Okay.
it.
Wait, so what do you got paleontology science?
I got paleontology science.
And you know what it is.
Oh, I know exactly what I'll do.
Whoa! All right, Frank, you want to roll to see what you're going to talk about?
Yeah, you want to see rank? Roll this one.
Let him choose.
You know which one? What?
None of them. Okay. He's opting out of this task.
I'm not doing a report.
Okay, well, then I guess we'll see you next week when we talk about what am I talking about?
Video game history.
Video game history.
Paleontology science.
Make sure that you subscribe, like, comment. You can join our Patreon for $5 a month at the lowest tier. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, bye.
Bye.